order. This is Tuesday, May 28th. It is 6:30 p.m. and this is a regular meeting of the Catalina Foothills School District Governing Board. I want to welcome everyone to tonight's meeting. Members of the public are attending both in person and live via our YouTube link. And in a few minutes, I'm going to read the rules of order for governing board meetings completely, but just a quick heads up. If you are wishing to make public comment at tonight's meeting, you should have signed up, and you happen to be online, you should have signed up using our Google form that's available under the YouTube live description. If you don't see that link, you should refresh your screen and look for that link such that you can fill out that public comment form. And if you're attending in person, you'll have filled out a form that looks like this that's available on the table in the back of the room. At this point, I'm going to ask everyone to stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Here comes the complete rules of order for public comment at governing board meetings. The governing board welcomes public comment at its meetings by providing 2 opportunities for the public to address the board. If your topic of interest is not on the agenda, you may address the board during the public comment time slot near the beginning of each meeting. Or if the topic is on the agenda, you may speak just prior to the discussion of that agenda topic. If you're joining remotely and wish to make public comment, please look for that Google form provided with the YouTube link. For those attending in person, please make sure you have filled out this form. The information on those forms is required for our meeting minutes. Speakers will be called on when it's their turn to address the board. For those attending remotely, you may choose to enable your camera. As a reminder to remote attendees who wish to speak, please unmute your microphone when called upon. Each speaker will have 2 minutes to address the board. The sound of the buzzer indicates the end of your 2 minutes. In the event of a large number of speakers, the board may need to limit that time so they can conduct the business on the agenda. By law, the board cannot discuss, consider, or vote on topics that are not on the agenda. This assures the community they are aware of the topics that will be discussed this evening. If you wish to discuss a topic through written communications, board members' contact information can be found on the district's website. We appreciate the community's attendance and comments at this meeting, and thank you for coming. All right, we are going to move directly from that to the main event for the evening, and the reason I'm assuming that most of you are here, which is our item 3.4, the CFSD Star Award, to our Seal of Biliteracy recipients. And our board member, Doug Hadley, is going to do the honors and make a presentation to these wonderful students.
Good evening.
Good evening.
This is great. We don't normally get a crowd like this, and sometimes when we do, it's for the wrong reason. So, kind of glad you guys are here. Yeah, board member Doug Hadley in the 7th year of my 8-year tour, apparently. And tonight, welcome to the Star Awards for you guys for the Seal of Biliteracy. So 80% of our country speaks one language, and I unfortunately am in that 80%. You guys clearly aren't. I went to high school. My mom spoke French fluently. I did 3 years of French. I did not make much progress. I went off to college. It's even a good college, and I switched to Italian, thinking it would be easier. I did 1 year of Italian. At the end of that year, I had me and 3 roommates, and we had our Italian professor over for dinner, Leo Martinelli. And Leo went around the room and said something nice about each one of my roommates, about Italian and getting better and should continue to study. And he got to me and he goes, "Mr. Hadley, you should probably just stick with English." So I am not bilingual. I will never be bilingual. I'm a little jealous of all of you guys for figuring it out so early. I'm glad you're here. I'm really proud of you guys. So, yeah, I also put 3 kids through Foothills, and none of them were ever here for this as well. So that's 0 for 4. The Seal of Biliteracy, it started in Arizona. It's throughout the country. Arizona adopted it in 2015. We here at Foothills adopted it in 2017, and that first year we had 8 students and 2 languages. And tonight we've got 52 students and 7 languages. So we've got Spanish, Chinese, German, French, Korean, Polish, and Japanese. So we've come a long way, and it's great to see this program grow for lots of reasons. It's not an easy, it's not something that's easy to obtain, right? So I've been told, haven't taken the test, but I've been told it's pretty rigorous. It's reading, writing, speaking, and listening. And it's not only in that second language, but you've also got to be able to pass all of our curriculum in English, which would be easy for most of us, but if you're coming here from a foreign country, that's the flip side, right? So pretty impressive that everybody's managed to get through both those curriculum and got here tonight. You can either earn a silver or a gold. I think the majority is gold. We'll call that out tonight as we go through the awards, but they're both pretty tough to get. There are a lot of benefits from speaking 2 languages, none of which I get to take advantage of. First off, we'll start with kind of the practical. You are more attractive to colleges and universities if you can speak 2 languages, and those of you who have already probably applied know that. You are more attractive to your employers if you can speak 2 languages, and specifically government, foreign service, international business, journalism, military, anything like that. They're gonna key on your ability to speak 2 languages. One of you speaks 3. You're a truly overachiever. I don't know if she's here tonight. We'll find out. And then usually speaking that second language is going to generate a little more income. You usually get some sort of bonus when you finally get hired, depending on what field you go into. So those are kind of the practical benefits of speaking 2 languages. Beyond that, the University of Chicago, I have to read this because the University of Chicago found that being bilingual improves the executive function of the brain. I don't exactly know what the executive function of the brain is, but it goes on to say that it makes you guys better problem solvers. It makes you guys better conflict managers. I'll let you ponder if that's true. Multitaskers, and then decision makers. So it helps you to better parse information. So that's what the U of C is telling us. So let's see. So that's more money, smarter, and then culturally, it's a bonus, right? It's if you're going to travel and you're going to go to a country where you can speak that language, it's a completely different experience. So it's culturally, it's a bonus, and nothing gets lost in translation. Does anybody know the reference Lost in Translation? 1, 2, you guys are so young. 3, 4. Okay, so Lost in Translation will be my movie pick for tonight. So when you guys are home trying to figure out what to watch and nobody's agreeing, put on Lost in Translation. It's a good little cultural flick about the difference. Backdrop is takes place in Japan. It's Bill Murray. I think most of you know who Bill Murray is. Scarlett Johansson for the Marvel crowd. Now the guys are, yeah, the guys are like, yeah, I know ScarJo, yeah. First ScarJo movie, so go watch Lost in Translation. You'll appreciate it. And then finally, remember earlier I said you're more attractive to colleges and universities. You're more attractive to employers. Apparently, you're more attractive to each other. According to a not-so-scientific study, 71% of Americans find other Americans more attractive if they speak a second language. More physically attractive and more intelligent. So if you're out there looking for a significant other, you can upgrade your, I don't know, whatever website you guys use. You can throw that on there and see if you can generate some interest. So lots of bonuses for speaking that second language. I'm going to let I'm going to let Cheryl fill in what I've missed here.
Well, I think you hit everything, except you reminded me of something really important. I love that he brought up the benefit. I'm Cheryl Castro. I spent 16 of the happiest years of my life in room 414 at the high school teaching Spanish with a wonderful group of people, kids and administrators and teachers. But I remember when you were talking about your experiences learning language, my professor, Antonio Paez, who was the best man at my wedding, took me aside when I was a little freshman at Kearney State College and said, you know, you can increase your dating pool if you expand the languages you speak, which is why I studied German, French, and Spanish. I had a great college experience. Learned a lot. So I just want to take a moment also to recognize I see people in the audience who are at least partially responsible for the honor that you've earned today, students. your teachers. So if you could stand up if you're a
Oh.
teacher.
Oh.
Nice.
Dee Dee, who's in the back, is one of our immersion teachers, so she saw your kids when they were so cute and so little over at Ventana Vista. And then I always want to acknowledge the parents, because you are the first teachers of your kids. And if you speak another language and you spoke it in the home, could you stand up? All of them, just stand up, because you have. Even if you didn't. And kids, if you haven't figured it out already, if your parents don't know the language you speak, you can always talk about really important things when they're in the room. It's a good thing to do. So anyway, that's all I had to say, and we wanted to get started.
So let me see how many people are here to get the seal tonight. Kids, hands up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, instead of reading 51 names, we're just going to bring you up and have you tell us about yourself. It's okay, it'll be all right. Don't panic. Don't panic. Maybe like why you learned the language you learned and where you're going to college, or nothing at all if you want to do nothing at all. So, who's first going back this way? All right. Oh, come on up. You're gonna this way. I don't have to pronounce your name, which is a bonus because I would ruin it. You can find the certificate. Your name is? Oh, there it is, right out of the chute, the double winner, right? Yeah. Mandarin and Spanish.
Wow.
Why so good?
No, well, I've been learning Spanish for a really long time, since first grade probably, and some of my family also speaks Spanish, so I kind of wanted to keep that tradition of speaking Spanish, and then I realized that I can't if I would do English. When I started high school, I was like, I've been learning Spanish for so long, I don't know.
So jealous. Okay, we found your certificate. That's awesome.
Conchi.
Stand in front of there.
What's your name?
I'm Wilson Spalding. I started learning Spanish, I think, from preschool. I went to the daycare where I took daycare for Spanish. Stuck with it, which is
Cool.
I'm going to Illinois Western University.
Name's really Wilson.
Yeah.
I remember them do that a couple nights ago. All right, good job.
I'm Sienna Nicole Golan. By literacy.
It's hard up here, isn't it? Yeah.
Spanish, and I really just think I didn't really like Spanish until I got to really close to
Aw.
it's really
Wow.
My name is Luke Bongman. I went to school French. And I started learning French because my dad speaks French. He's from France. I've got family in France, so we come visit. And also did my sophomore year abroad in France, so I kind of perfected it then. And I decided to
French girlfriend.
yeah.
What did I tell you?
I'm Cole Barbier. I got the silver literacy in Spanish. I've been part of the Spanish immersion program since kindergarten, so it was kind of natural. I knew it more than others like this, so I stuck with it. Learned a lot. Explore a lot of stuff that I didn't know. Not be going to
Yeah.
My name is Leah Magdalene. I took this year biodiversity teacher, and I like learning Spanish mostly for MSP. And I like staying close to people. I think
Wow, great. Who's next?
Nobody left on this side.
Yeah.
so my first language is Spanish, and but at the same time, it's really like what you learn is Spanish in different ways. Like it was like musical language, so it was and that he's really special for me because he's really different, and I really appreciate how he explains from. My name is Lina Santos. I picked this in the basic system in Spanish language. And I've been taking Spanish all in high school because it makes me feel like safe, I guess, and it's the only time I can really be good at math. And I'm going to go there. My name is Lily Rose, and I got this ability to speak Spanish. I actually started out learning Hebrew at preschool, but then when I switched to summer, I just switched to Spanish. And then since then, I just kept going. And I had spoken with Garcia my first year, and the next year I spoke with Melissa, so it's kind of fit, and I just really love it. So I just feel better. And I'm going to do that.
Congrats.
My name is Alexa Burns, and this year I'm trying to speak Spanish. I started learning Spanish in 6th grade when I moved districts, and I kept learning Spanish because I was such a passionate skill to have. And I work for the city right now as a lifeguard in some of the schools on the south side of town. It's actually fantastic. We get a lot of adults, patrons who only speak Spanish, so it's fantastic that we can do that in that way, help them out. I'm going to University of Louisville.
Nice.
And they didn't have the Ukraine when I did it, so well, kind of.
Congratulations.
My name is David Hughes. I got the silver literacy in Chinese. I took Spanish through Shady Canada School, but when I saw the opportunity, I saw it. And I'm really glad I did. I got to have a good teacher my last 4 years ago.
My name is Catherine Edmondson, and I lecture biology in Spanish. My dad speaks Spanish, so my side of my dad is Spanish. But taking classes at school really helped me learn it in a very academic way. And really expanded in this family. I like to do most of the school. I'm Yuri. I have my CIS in Spanish. I've been doing Spanish since kindergarten, so it's just kind of always stuck with me. And then I'm also doing school nursing, so I want to keep the skill. Just have that skill. Hi, I'm Nina Crystal Gonzalez. I learned Spanish at home. My mom learned Spanish. And then I did a year abroad, and I learned French. And I'm going to the University of Arizona for law, so I can learn more languages.
My name is Andres Martinez. I got my field biology in Spain. All of my family is from Mexico, and I just one of the big classes is you'll communicate well with them. Other things to me.
Is that everybody?
Is everybody going to keep studying language, or is everybody most going to stick with it?
And it's a good life. That's our, you look at our world languages transfer goals. That's what we want them to do. Come back and leave. Okay, who was in your book and knows how to organize people into a picture? Let's get me the picture.
Couple rows, maybe?
That's all. People in bed. Make 3 rows. Your book. Ashley, come help me.
They got a mom up there organizing the kids. Maybe she's worked on your book. I don't know. That's just funny. I know. I wish you could have a meeting without saying something like that, but you can't. You just can't. It was great. So I've already had that conversation with two of. It's his persona.
Yeah. This is so great that schools have
He had so
ended.
many, yeah. Well,
I love it.
would have been a bit challenging if we had all 52 kids.
Can you imagine?
It's great. You really should. How meta.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, it was like the Doug and Cheryl show.
Thank Thank you for coming to the Doug and Cheryl Show portion of the evening.
Congratulations, kids, families.
And the teacher, they keep mentioning.
I think it was the woman sitting right there. I'm not sure what her name was. Like it's hard to hear when they're
Yes.
speaking that way. It's hard to hear.
Aw. So nice.
Cute. Hi.
I think they like the,
We'll give them a few minutes, then I'll clear them out.
it's so nice. It's okay. What I was gonna say.
Get out of this photo. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, there's only two, right?
Only two what?
Public comments or one?
There's one.
Oh,
There's
so
only
we-
one public comment.
So we just.
Maybe just turn it, yeah, this way a little bit.
Yeah, that's good. Want me to do it? Oh.
Thank you for coming. Congratulations. All of you.
Just a little bit.
That's what he's over there telling me.
One before it gets.
Before you get caught.
Oh yeah, that one. Just so that it's okay.
It's just, there's just one.
It's just one, and there's not.
As far as I know, let me make sure there's nobody online here.
That was
I
lovely.
got nobody online.
That was wonderful.
I can't remember the last time I had somebody online.
For goodness
This.
kids.
Of
It's
course.
my favorite one.
There are kids.
Favorite one.
Thanks everybody for coming.
Gracias por venir.
We lost Doug though.
No, he's right over there. He's right at the back door.
Oh, I
and,
didn't see him.
Saying goodbye to everybody. All right, we're going to go ahead and finish the rest of
We're
our
in trouble
meeting.
if he does.
And just for the folks that are still here, there obviously were 51 or 52 kids. We know that it's kind of late in the year, and a lot of the kids are probably already on their fabulous graduation trips, unfortunately. But all of their names are listed in our agenda for this evening, and I believe the names will also be listed in the border, so it will all get communicated out. The names of all of the kids who also participated in this honor. Doug and Cheryl, great job. We need to call you two the Doug and Cheryl show. That was nice. Thanks for making that special for our kids. Appreciate it. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to our next item of business, which I do believe is public comment. Item 4 is public comment. And we have one this evening. I see nothing online as of yet. We do have one speaker who has signed up. Lindsay, is that Fairbanks? Okay, Lindsay Fairbanks is a teacher in our district. If you'd come on up to our podium.
Is this working okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
So my name's Lindsay Fairbanks. I've been employed at the district for 7 years, and I'm here to provide some feedback on the recent proposed change to the performance award policy. To give you some background concerning the current policy, I'm going to relate my experience with it last year. Last year, I took 11 weeks of leave after the birth of my daughter. I worked with several members of the HR team and my site admin to get my leave in order. This included many emails, documents being exchanged between my doctors, myself, HR, my site admin, creating extensive plans for students, PowerPoints, activities, assessments, rubrics, etc., and having my long-term sub shadow me on my last day at the school, and countless other finishing touches. So that my colleagues and my students could run my classroom as smoothly as possible while I was gone. I was happy to do this work because student performance and our school district's policies really matter to me. Our school culture matters to me. Of course, things never go as planned, and I did have quite a bit of work waiting for me when I returned in early December. And that was okay. While it was a daunting task, my students and I finished the semester and ultimately the year very strong. This is not a unique experience. Several of my colleagues in the past 5 years have taken 11 to 12 weeks of FMLA maternity leave. I'm sure no matter what the policy is, that will continue to happen as people continue to have children in our district. Last summer, I was alerted to the fact that despite all of this work preparing for leave and receiving an above proficient score on my observations, I was not going to receive my performance award. I was unaware of this until I was emailed asking about it in June. I was alerted that the award is not given to anyone who misses a certain amount of face-to-face days with students. Ooh, I'll try to wrap up.
I'm going to go ahead and give you a few more seconds to finish since you're our only speaker tonight, but if you can wrap it, thank you.
I was told this is not due to taking FMLA. While this is unhappy, obviously I persevered, but I struggle to think of any reason any educator in our district would miss 30 days of instruction other than FMLA or maternity leave. While I was looking at the board minutes, I saw the proposal is moving to narrow the window from having to have 132 to 162 face-to-face days. I still struggle to see any situation other than FMLA or bereavement or a medical situation that would cause a staff member to miss 10% of face-to-face time. I question how taking away an earned bonus from staff reflects our core values as a district. I urge you to consider the population of certified staff this is truly affecting. While the language of the policy is neutral, I truly believe the policy itself is poised to unintentionally affect those taking medical leave. Thank you for your guys' time tonight, and I'll email my full letter to you later.
Thank you, I appreciate that, and thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay. That is our only in-person public comment. And I still see nothing online, so I'm going to go ahead and close our public comment session and move on to our next item, which is the bulk of our meeting this evening, although it doesn't generally take that much time. Item 5 is our consent agenda. We have 19 separate items on here. Is there anyone who has anything they would like to pull on the consent agenda or discuss on the consent agenda before we receive a motion on these items?
I have nothing to pull, but I did just have a couple of
Go for it.
comments to make. Some of the things that are on the consent agenda are things that we have on every consent agenda, like meeting minutes and expense voucher memorandum, and field trip requests and fundraising and gifts and donations. And then some are things that we just do this time of year to get the business of the district done, things having to do with procurement and vendors and signature authorizations. And I just want to point out that although these things are all on a consent agenda and they are somewhat ministerial or routine, every single one of these items is really vital to the smooth operation of the school district. It takes a lot of work for our administrators to, make sure this gets in front of us every year at the right time, so we don't miss a beat, so things don't fall through the cracks. And so I just wanted to mention that even though, well, it may take me a few minutes to read it, they're incredibly important items. So.
I agree. Thank you. Doug, anything? I was just going to mention, and this was a question that I posed to Dr. Camersell and Dr. Bartlett, when I read the consent agenda, and it was on item 5.11, approval of check signers for district bank accounts, et cetera. And I'm sure somewhere along the way in my 12 years on the board, I knew the answer to this question, but I asked it again in year 12 to make sure that all of the checks that are written on any of our bank accounts, it's not set up for a single signature. It is always set up for a double signature. And it was just something that struck me when I was reading this, since we are dealing with signers on accounts for money that is allocated to us by the state, that is there for the benefit of our students, that there is definitely that double check and balance on having two signers on any check that leaves our district, which I was comforted to have that confirmed to me on item 5.11. Other than that, I didn't have any other comment on the consent agenda item either. So in the absence of further comment or discussion, is there a motion?
Would be happy to make the motion. One sec. I had it and then I went off of it. And I need to make it bigger so that I can read it. Okay. I move that the governing board approve consent agenda items 5.1, the governing board May 14th, 2024 regular meeting minutes as presented. 5.2, the governing board May 14th, 2024 executive session meeting minutes as presented. 5.3, the expense voucher memorandum as presented. 5.4, the field trip request memorandum as presented. 5.5, the fundraising request memorandum as presented. 5.6, the personnel memorandum as presented. 5.7, the acceptance with gratitude of the gifts and donations memorandum as presented. 5.8, the award of the request for proposal 24-01-29, Food Service Management Company, of a one-year contract with the option to renew for 4 additional years to Southwest Food Service Excellence, LLC, as presented. 5.9, the contracts for the request for proposal 24-05-29, Community Schools Enrichment Courses of $750,000 to the vendors listed in the memorandum as presented. 5.10, the use of governing board signature stamps for fiscal year 2024 to 2025 as presented. 5.11, the check signers for the district bank accounts for fiscal year 2024 to 2025 as presented. 5.12, the delegate authority for the issuance of duplicate warrants for fiscal year 2024 to 2025 as presented. 5.13, the authorization for district representative for emergency procurements and bid protests for fiscal year 2024 to 2025 as presented. 5.14, the authorization for district representative for disposal of assets for fiscal year 2024 to 2025 as presented. 5.15, the authorization for district representative for request for proposal procurements for fiscal year 2024 to 2025 as presented. 5.16, the student activities treasurers for fiscal year 2024 to 2025 as presented. 5.17, the sole source vendor list for fiscal year 2024 to 2025 as presented. 5.18, the cooperative purchase list for fiscal year 2024 to 2025 as presented. And finally, 5.19, the professional learning center improvements as presented.
Nice job.
Second
you.
that.
Second the nice job, or you
I
second
can
the
only
motion?
read in one language though, and speak in one language,
That is
like
true.
Doug.
All right, there is a motion and a second to approve this consent agenda. I will not repeat all of the items in the motion. If there is no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Okay. We are going to go ahead then and move on to section 6, which is our unfinished business, and it does bring up item 6.1, which is approval of revisions to the CFSD Performance Award Plan. This is a second reading, and of course, this is the program that you were just making public comment on, so we appreciate that. Any discussion on, and I wish Denise was here, unfortunately. She is not here, But any discussion on the one proposed change, which is the change that was referred to in our public comments by Lindsay Fairbanks? Anyone want to comment or question or? Yep, I'm getting there too.
Do you want me to go over the highlights? Or?
And this is for, yeah, Cheryl, that's probably a good idea if you'll go over the highlights of these. And this is, just to be clear, is for the plan year 2024, 2025. It does not affect the performance award that's going to be paid for this current school year. So go ahead, Cheryl, thank you.
So after the first reading of this plan on May 14th, 2024, there were no additional recommendations. There is only one change to the performance award plan for the 24-25 school year. The recommendation is to increase the minimum qualifying requirement for eligibility to receive the performance award from 135 days to 162 days. 162 represents 90% of the school year, and this matches our expectation for student attendance to be no less than 90%.
And that was the rationale for bringing
Yeah, the
this to the
second
board.
rationale was, it was related to teaching 90% of the school year enables a teacher to have more impact on student learning than a teacher teaching 75% of the school year.
Well, how are people feeling about this?
Exceptions.
Well, and the document doesn't necessarily list exceptions to this policy. Yeah, and I have looked at it and it does not. I'm just double checking to make sure.
6.
Okay. So, feedback that I'm hearing from you guys?
Table this to next time?
Well, and that's why I pointed out that this is not for anything in terms of making payments for this year, so
Let's kick this and talk more about it, is what I'd like to do.
that's what you'd like to do?
I agree.
Yeah, it certainly seems like that might be an unintended consequence of this. I certainly understand the impetus to want to bring up that attendance requirement and bring up that participation requirement. But I certainly hear your comments, and what you say makes some sense. And it does seem to me that it should warrant a little bit more conversation with our administrators before we go ahead and make a final change for this, when this is not something that has to be in place in order to finish out this particular school year. So I thank you for your comments and for pointing this out. We will send it back and have another discussion on it and a third reading on it, I would assume, in 2 weeks at our first board meeting in June. Thank you. Okay. All right. We will then move on to item 7, our new business, which is consideration of revisions to policy and regulation JL-R, student wellness, which is a first reading, and we're going to turn it back over to Cheryl Castro.
Okay, presented for your consideration are the revisions to policy and regulation JL and JLR student wellness. The primary reason for bringing this proposal to revise the policy and regulation is a change to regulation JLR under the section that notes how often the district wellness committee will meet. There is no language from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Food Service, Nutrition that requires a yearly meeting. And so we recommend deleting the phrase, quote, "that meets once a year," end quote, in section A under the District Wellness Committee section of the regulation. The committee will meet as often as necessary to modify any policy or regulation language as needed. The very minor revisions to the opening sentence of policy JL are recommended so that the date of the policy adoption can be changed to June 11th, 2024.
And I think that this is something that we see relatively frequently, at least once a year and regardless of whether the committee is meeting, I believe that the policy is reviewed regularly for any required changes. So it doesn't necessarily concern me in terms of keeping this program up to date, that we remove that requirement. Does anybody have any
Oh, this
comment or
totally sent me
further?
down a rabbit hole.
It sent you down a rabbit hole?
Yes.
Oh, because you read the whole policy and you're
Oh, and then I was
wordsmithing
reading
it,
all the
yeah.
menus
Well, we all
for
read the whole
breakfast and for
policy,
lunch,
yeah.
and I wanted to know. I was like, is there a salad bar at every meal, or prepared salad? I was fascinated by this, and then I read the Department of Agriculture and I remember. You probably remember this too. I was dragged into the school lunch program at Manzanita
Oh, yeah.
before we had these policies.
We were serving them Kentucky Fried Chicken.
McDonald's, Papa John's, KFC. Every day we brought in a different.
Every day it
Do you
was a
remember
fast
that?
food restaurant would
Every
bring
day
in the
was a
hot
fast-
lunches for kids,
Yes,
yeah.
it was.
And I remember we were really mad as an FFO when they canceled it because
Yes,
we
we
used
were
to,
making
it was a big
so much money,
fundraiser.
yeah.
It was a big fundraiser for
That
the
was-
FFOs.
That was the first year I was still running that program when we switched over.
Me too. I was the
national-
FFO president at Sunrise
Yeah.
Drive when it ended.
Yeah.
And I'm like, darn, now I've got to find
Yep.
a different fundraiser for this.
Yeah.
But, you know, we
That's
were,
when Claude came
it was,
along,
yeah,
right?
Lord, the French shop.
And then we started the whole school nutritional program, and then
Yep.
we couldn't bring in like cupcakes for kids' birthdays, and I mean,
You
it's
can to some degree, but
well, now, yes, you can, but that's the rabbit hole I went down. I was
Yeah.
looking at all the menus and all
Gotcha.
it was really, it was actually really great to see what's being offered at our schools every day,
Absolutely.
for breakfast and for lunch. And I don't think we have any committees. This policy talks about committees. I'm not aware of a parent committee doesn't seem like you need to have a parent committee when you have National School Lunch Program that's being facilitated by a vendor, and you meet the goals. There's not a whole lot to.
you know, it might be something that a school site council might pick as a goal for that particular site. You know how they choose their direction each year.
Yeah.
So it's possibly something that might be done at a committee level there. Couple little comments here. There's just, Cheryl, just in the actual physical presentation of the policy, there's just spacing
Weird
issues.
spaces.
Spacing issues that should probably be cleaned up so that it looks a little bit more professional.
Okay.
And then I had, you know, just one quick question. Are the middle school students still having PE every single day? I mean, for a while, the middle school students went to PE every day, and I'm wondering if that's still the case.
When I was at Esperero, we had it every day.
I think it's still
Yeah.
every day, which is great for that age group, that's for sure. Okay. Anything from over in Doug country over there? You're good with the space?
The one between E and F is particularly disturbing.
Oh, it is.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
And B and C.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's.
And Cheryl, this is maybe something you can just take a note of
Okay.
to talk about with Denise and Mary. I'm just curious when the last triennial progress assessment was done. So in the regulation, it's on page 9 of 10, and it says that once every 3 years, the district shall conduct an assessment of the wellness policy. And is that what this is? Is this third year, this is just an assessment of the policy? But it talks about the description of the progress made in attaining the goals of the wellness policy. So I was just kind of wondering
I'll ask.
about that piece. And then under the record-keeping section, it talks about documentation showing that the policy was made available to the public through annual notification. And I was wondering how we do this. I don't know if this is in our school handbooks, which I probably could have looked up and answered the question for myself, or if it's a separate communication with our parents on the wellness program. I'm not sure how that's done.
Okay. I will ask and someone will get back to you.
Okay.
Probably Mary.
Okay, thank you. I think that is all my little stickies on here. more. I think those are just spacing. That's it. That's all I have, folks. And of course, this is a first reading, so some of those questions that we have and little changes to this policy will come back to us at our first meeting in June, where it will be a potential action item. And that is our new business for this evening. We'll then go to item 8, which is discussion and reports, and the fiscal year, item 8.1, fiscal year 2025 M&O budget. And we are going to turn this back over to Cheryl to review the changes from the last iteration of our straw budget.
Okay, so in the document, you'll find three parts: the fiscal year 25 revenue budget document, the fiscal year 25 expenditure budget document, and the fiscal year 25 classroom site fund and instructional improvement fund report. I have been asked to specifically highlight 2 changes under the fiscal year 25 expenditure budget document. So I'll give you a chance to get there.
To get there, make it bigger.
Thanks.
Okay.
So there are the 2, it's the second and the third bullet that I'll be on. So line D, we'll take away that S there, next. Line D, under the 2025 additions column, was increased by $93,816 for the increase to the substitution rate. And line 2F, under the 2025 additions column, was increased by $88,987 for the same reason, for substitute teachers. Line 40 of the same document, outsourced custodial services increased by an additional $22,834 under the 2025 additions column to account for the projected increase in costs for custodial services for the new Strings building.
Cheryl, what was that increase amount again?
It increased by $22,834.
Okay.
So the amount that you see there was
Lower.
was less
by
the
that
last
much.
time that you saw it.
Got it. Thank you. And those were the 2 outstanding items that Dr. Camerzal
Yes.
alluded to 2 weeks ago that we were kind of waiting on this straw budget. Okay. And everything else stays pretty much the same?
Pretty much.
Oops, wrong. Get out of here.
Until we hear from the state.
Until we hear from the state.
Yes.
Well, we don't really expect any surprises in terms of, I guess, lesser revenue, because of the only revenue adds in this document is the 2%. The 2% inflationary increase, which is mandated by law. So we haven't been banking on balancing our budget on any new revenues outside of that. But who knows what they can do otherwise to balance the budget. Okay? And there's a couple of changes on the classroom site fund and instructional improvement fund as well?
They were decreases.
They were
Decrease
decreases.
in the first one, under 9A and 9C, were decreased by $26,494 and $5,539 respectively to adjust expenditures for actuals expended. And then 9A was increased. This addition is the unearned portion of the performance pay, line 9C, employee benefits, and it was increased for the same reason as line 9A.
Go back to that document. Bear with me for a second, just to look at those changes. Instructional improvement fund. And I'm sorry, I can't look at the memo and the document at the same time, so can you list
Sure,
those
let's go
changes
back.
again?
Okay, so you're on the classroom
Classroom
site
site
fund?
fund, yes.
Okay, so lines 9A and 9C,
This is performance pay.
under the fiscal year 24 deletions column, decreased by $26,494 and $5,539 to adjust expenditures for actual amounts spent. And line 3B, under the fiscal year 2025 additions column, was increased because of carry forward increases when prior year expenditures decrease.
Right, that makes sense to me. Okay, got it. Got it. questions? Comments? And normally, this is a little bit easier for us to work with if we have paper copies of this, if you just mention to
Oh, I will.
Mary and
Yeah,
Denise.
it's a good idea.
Yeah, usually
Because
we do.
we usually have them at our place, and, you know, it's no big deal. It's just, like I said, can't look at the memo and
Right.
the document at the
print is
same
so
time on
small
here. And
on
it's
that,
very
yeah.
small, yeah. Okay. This, of course, will come back to us until we have a final budget, which we'll vote on. I believe that's at the second board meeting in June, assuming we get some feedback from the state on what they're going to allocate for us for next year. But that's their deadline, so I'm assuming that they're going to make that deadline. Anything else, folks, before we move on?
Thank you.
Okay. Item 8.2 is the Arizona legislative/governmental activities. So anything other than waiting for a budget that people want to discuss here?
I was just gonna mention the capital litigation.
Saw that in today's
case.
paper.
Yeah, started today, that trial. That'll be interesting.
Quite interesting.
Yeah. And aside from that, I mean, related, but aside from that, I mean, our facilities folks have gone after
Grant funds,
grant funds and have been successful,
highly successful.
which has been super helpful.
And, you know, to be fair, they have funded that grant program pretty, I don't want to say robustly, but certainly adequately, such that we haven't had one of those grants turned down, as far as I'm aware of, which is great, but it's not what the litigation and the Supreme Court decision came to back in the 90s when they identified how the School Facilities Board should be run. And so that's the gist of the case, fighting for more capital funding for all schools, such that schools are not reliant simply on their taxpayers to tax themselves, such that they'd have enough money to take care of roofs and facilities to keep their children's schools in decent repair. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. This has been coming for a long time, 7 years, I think they said. In the paper, it's taken it this long to get it to an actual courtroom. So it's something that we'll be watching pretty closely.
Yes.
Pretty closely. All right. Anything else under that bucket? Number 9, future agenda considerations. Anybody have anything? So you and I are agenda planning tomorrow. I believe it's set for 2 o'clock. Denise is back tomorrow, right? Okay, so are you going to be in person? Okay, then I think I can plan on being there in person.
You guys are meeting at 2?
It's usually what we do when it's Doug's turn. It doesn't matter anymore,
Does it matter?
right?
Does something work better for you?
It doesn't matter. I think that's where it is on my calendar, so we might as well leave it so that we don't have to try to rearrange it first thing in the morning when Denise
Sounds
is
great.
just getting
Yep.
back. So
Got it.
we'll stick with 2 p.m. for that. Okay. We are not going to be returning to executive session. So that brings us to item 11, which is a motion for adjournment if people are ready.
I've made enough motions
Move we
tonight.
adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0 to adjourn. Thank you, fellow board members. Thank you, Cheryl, for
Anytime.
doing such a great job of
Pitching
thanksgiving.
in.